Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Looking like an absolute Chad today, unintentionally, but my hair only looks good at a length for about a week, and then, well, starts to look like this. About the time I shaved the head and went back to the barely having any hair mode, because sometimes I like that better. I don't have much to say this week. Gonna be trying out Genshin Impact on Twitch. Finished all of my Shadowbringers mounts, or my mount farm, so I'm 5 out of 7 for whatever the final mount's gonna be. And I'm glad it seems like people enjoyed the latest State of the Realm. We got Tank Versus, we got our music State of the Realm out this week. We had a bit of news about 5.35, even some Final Fantasy 16 stuff I haven't even recorded yet. And so, yeah, just wanted to, I guess, open with some positivity into what I've been up to and what I'll be up to. With that, though, let's thank the sponsors and move on to the questions. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon. You guys support this show directly with that. And don't worry, even if you're not there, you're still getting a thank you during the hard times for COVID. If your name has been on that list recently, it's still going to be on that list. And I got to make sure to update that list. Also, big shout out to our Patrons of Darkness, Khuja on Jenova and Kurenai Oni, both of which have been the Patrons of Darkness who have gone above and beyond. So thank you to them. Thank you to everyone over on Patreon. And thank you to all of you tuning in. And hopefully there's some good questions under the stream this week. So let's get started. And we got a really short first one. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hope you're having a good day. I am, and I hope the same for you. A long-time watcher, first-time asker. Quick question. Do you do all the yearly seasonal events, or like some people, depending on the rewards? Definitely depends on the rewards. Most of the time I'll do the collaborations without really thinking about it. Like Yokai, I took like 7.5 hours and got that done. And stuff like the Rising, which is very, I guess, emotional as somebody who's played for so many years, even since 1.0. But for things like, you know, Halloween or All Saints Wake and what, if it's just going to be like a random outfit and like a housing furnishing, I'm like, I don't care. It wouldn't even take me longer than 15-20 minutes to get it. That's how little I care. So it definitely depends on the reward for me. If there's a mount or a minion, most of the time I'll go out of my way to do it, but otherwise, Next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. Hope you're having a good time. I'm having a good time, and I hope you're having a good time, too. 2 short questions. 1, assuming we get a crossover trial like Rathalos back in Stormblood, what do you want it to be? I don't have any wants when it comes to crossovers. I am only, how do I say this? I take my crossovers case by case, because I'm not a huge fan of the prospect. I think at times it makes sense, and it's worked in the past. But the near raid and that crossover / collaboration has really left me kind of soured. So I actually don't have a wish list. Quite frankly, it would just be another Monster Hunter monster, because they've already done that well once, and repeating that would be perfectly cool for me. But just any like other games, like people have said, do you want Devil May Cry or whatever? No, just do like a 16 one like we all expect will happen sooner or later. Yoshi P shows up in the meeting room, sits in one seat, asks the other producer what they want to do for the collaboration, gets up, walks around the table, sits in the other seat, answers the question, and they can have a nice conversation while they figure out what we're doing for the 16 collaboration. But I otherwise don't have a wish list. Another Monster Hunter monster, because it was done so well the first time. That's the answer. 2, I recently made it to Titan Jails in Uwu, and it's been a bit of a wall, to say the least. I've woken Titan once, but a lot of cleanup there is needed. That is a spot that actually catches a lot of people and walls them, as you've said, for a little bit. Any advice you can give regarding it? Honestly, what ends up happening is everyone who's part of that group probably has, so there's a mentality that you may notice and you may not notice, but it's something that subconsciously happens. Everyone has a way they like to dodge things. Some people always prefer to be on the left flank of the boss, for example. Some people always prefer to be on the right flank of the boss. Some people, whenever they're spreading out for a mechanic, they always go back and left. Getting people's habits kind of down packed and using that to judge which person's going to be which jail and which line is usually something that helps with the communication, because you can have someone go 1, 2, or 3. And then no matter what, you have the first person go 1, second person go 2, second person go 3. As long as everyone's used to like, oh, these 2 people have it, this is the spot I should expect to be in. It just takes a lot of practice ironing that out. One thing I'll say is if you're dying to the knockback, one thing I actually told someone the other day that helps, if anyone's actually dying to the knockback itself, standing on the left or right points of the arrow in front of Titan's hitbox, like right where the arrow meets the rest of the outline of the box, that's going to be your safe knockback spot. But as for that, it's literally just practice and getting used to how other people call it, getting used to what it's like to have different partners in there, and expecting that you're still probably going to have a few mistakes. But yeah, getting comfortable and then calling 1, 2, or 3. So that's the best that I could possibly give for you. Forgot to mention I'm the King Harkanian guy from the previous question. Just changed my name. Okay, I don't even remember last week's questions because I am dumb. All right, so thanks for asking another question, and hopefully you'll have more in the future. Ooh, another short one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy. I have a streaming question for you. Of course, I recently bought a mic to start streaming with audio. However, I find it awkward to talk while no one's watching while I play. Got any tips? Thanks for doing what you do. So I'm from New Jersey. We never shut the hell up. Getting used to never shutting the hell up. One thing that maybe not a lot of people do, and some people kind of feel awkward about it, talking about what's happening in front of you. I externalize a lot of emotion, for example, when I'm playing a horror game. Instead of just sitting there scared and immersed and immense, I'm like, I don't want to go out there. No, I don't want to go. See, if I go out that door, I'm going to die. And you know what? I don't want to die. So you know what? I'm going to stay in here and maybe they'll get bored at some point. That's just me taking my, I really don't want to just be jump scared right now and externalizing it into words. That's kind of how I've always just handled, I guess, my life, is externalizing things like that. And it's hit or miss sometimes. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. But it comes with the territory. So that's the thing, just externalizing your thoughts and your emotions on a given moment. Like, oh, dude, this guy's fucking up. Of course, got to res him for the 3rd time. Oh, and he died again. Great, because he didn't know he didn't have the invulnerability. He just got rid of it. He's like, oh, I have Transcendence buff. I guess I don't want that. You know, see what I mean? Externalize it. You know, it's natural to me, but it can be trained. It can be learned. It can be done, I think is the last word. You can do it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Modays. I hate Mondays, so that works for me. Hey, yo, Haps. Hope you had a good day and week onward. Thank you, and I hope the same for your week as it comes, and your weekend that just passed. I don't know if you already answered this or not. Probably, but that comes with the territory. Do you think it's a good idea if 14 gives us the ability to exchange Ex-primal weapons for their respective totems instead? Not the full value, but something like 3 or 5. I don't see anything inherently wrong with it. It's one of those things that is really good for the player, but doesn't make sense from a developer standpoint a whole lot. So when developers create pity systems like this, the idea is to get you to participate in it a set number of times, and with that number of times, they can anticipate the number of hours that they expect you to spend. Of course, if you don't want to, you wait till it lowers its drop rate later, and they allow you to actually do the exchange later, then that changes. You know, their amount of time they sort of value that content at has reduced because it's no longer recent. So this is one of those things where if they did it, I'd expect them to do it along with releasing the mount with the totems and buffing the drop rate, as opposed to something that's available immediately. And because it's something that's beneficial to the player, of course, I'm okay with it, but it's something I wouldn't expect the developers to consider doing. What I think they should do, though, is maybe consider, if not directly for totems, weapon exchanges. Like if you have 2 weapons, you can exchange them for one of your choice, because they've already expressed concerns with the amount of weapons that any trial has to drop and the amount of weapons that it actually drops. So we may even be seeing trials move over to a coffer-like system instead in the future, where it drops a weapon coffer and then whatever, you know, mount, crafting piece, whatever. I wouldn't be surprised to see that starting in 6.0. Maybe even sooner, but 6.0 would be the earliest I'd expect that. Or some other solution. But they really want people to be spamming these and repeating them a lot to pursue the mount or to pursue as many weapons as they can possibly get. So on release, I don't suspect they'll do anything that would reduce the amount of time that it takes to actually earn your rewards from this content, just to reduce it enough to make it more reasonable for people who just want 1 or 2 things from it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. We're back on Mondays. Okay. Salutations. Hope you're having a great day. Hello, and I hope the same for you. How do you feel about the one-off collaboration? Wow, okay, this is just a follow-up to the previous one. I loved it, being a big fan of both games and would like to see others. Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, Monster Hunter is like one of the ones they really got right. It's easily the best collaboration that they've done up to this point. Not to say that like 13, 15, Dragon Quest, like those weren't good collaborations. Yokai, yeah. But I think that the amount of effort and the value that came out of the Monster Hunter collaboration is just so much higher. It gave us a permanent piece of content that stands on its own and makes people go, I wouldn't mind more content that plays like something similar to this. And that's a good thing to be able to get that kind of feedback from your community, on top of the fact that it means on the Monster Hunter side of things, we got Behemoth, who, as much as it frustrated a lot of people who are not used to the more MMO-esque mechanics, little did they know that it would be preparation for Alatreon, I think it is, and Iceborne, in terms of getting the more MMO-esque things out of the way. And I really enjoyed the Behemoth fight in Monster Hunter World as well. So I'm, like I said, I don't really want collaborations. Like, I'm not like, oh my god, please do a collaboration with this, please do a collaboration with that. I'm like, but if they present me one and it's good, I'll take it for what it is. And if it's not good, I'll call it for what it is. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, hope you're doing well. Hope the same for you. Short question for you, although you may have already answered. Again, I've probably answered most questions like this at some point before. In fact, as you just saw, I answered the same question twice in one show. So I'm used to it. I know you don't like speculation. Thank you. But what do you think the big thing is that they're working on once they finish developing the next Ultimate? So this is a bit of information that we've been talking about on stream lately, actually, because this kind of been forgotten. They said that they were actually moving along with the development on the next Ultimate way sooner than it was going to be available, because it's not going to be until 5.5x, because they wanted to take resources and put them towards something else new that they were trying. So getting it done sooner means they can get working on that next thing even faster. Now, what it is, I'm someone who doesn't think it's anything hyper difficult. I don't think it's like a 24-man Savage. I don't think it's some like super hardcore content for the end game raiders. I think it's just something that in terms of scale is quite large. Now, of course, that gives us reason to believe it could be something like Eureka or Bozja, and could even be something that's inside of Bozja near the end of the expansion. It could be something Blue Mage related. It could be another limited job. There's a lot of things that a lot of effort go into that they may want to free up development time for by making sure they complete other things that they've already promised a little bit earlier. Maybe it's finally Eggy Glam. Who knows? I think it's something like the next Battlefield content, or something that is large scale like Battlefield content, but without being just Eureka or just Bozja again. That's all I think, but because that's all I can really speculate on. It's the only thing we have, enough information about to make a reasonable guess. But who's to say? It could be anything. Could even just be the next expansion for all we know. So, we'll wait and see. See you then. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hello. First time asker, but long time watcher, but here's a bonus of an easy time finding and rating with static for 5.4 in the next Ultimate. That would be a dream. With the recent addition of Y'shtola's BT and the Japanese version of Defu, this is some mobile game shenanigans for anyone who doesn't know. It brings to mind who the antagonist of 14 would be for Defu. Looking at the timing, it might be reasonable to assume that they could add either Xenos or Zodiark to the BT roster by the end of the year, or sometimes next year, but there's been no antagonists added at all. It's worth mentioning that Dissidia NT has Xenos as the villain. He was added as a DLC character around the time of the last Japanese Fan Fest, actually. That's when his trailer debuted, and he was released within the game, I think, within the next few weeks. He was even playable at the JP Fan Fest. The fact that he's not 14's villain in Defu by now is kind of shocking, to be honest. I know that was kind of towards the end of Dissidia NT's life cycle, but I'm still relatively surprised, because I think it's gotta be Xenos and nobody else. I mean, you could argue Elidibus, you could argue Emmet, and I think most people would to some degree. And I think that's a reasonable thing to expect. It could be Emmet, Elidibus, or Xenos. But Xenos is already in NT, and as much as that game doesn't matter anymore, I'd like to think that they'd maybe go that route. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Longtime viewer, first time asker, so have a Venus? I don't want a Venus, I'll take a bonus though. Of a big, sweet, juicy, cold watermelon. I don't like watermelon because even the seedless watermelon somehow still has seeds. I don't know how we manage that. How do you send a Tell across server on PS4? Dude, I refuse to even try. Unless somebody's on my friends list, dude, sending a Tell or sending a friend request across across servers within the data center, I don't even know what you have to type, because I remember trying to do it once. I'm like, I'm never going to do that. Because it's really, really annoying. Hopefully it's someone you've played with recently, and you can use like the recent players tab to find them, and then you can just right click send tell. And then once you actually do find someone and send a tell to them across a server and a data center, then it should give you, that should be the format that you follow if you want to do it with anybody else. Again, I just avoid it, because I look at it and I go, I'm scared, I'm not going to do that. Wait, it's asking me to press buttons on a keyboard, and I don't have a keyboard. should get a keyboard. Definitely get a keyboard. Second question, are you planning to update the Blue Mage Mask Carnival first levels? Yeah, I should, because it's all, blow up, blow up, blow up, blow up, blow up, blow up, blow up. I really should. Good point. I don't know yet, but you're right, I should. Lastly, I need RF. Need a percentage checker instead of first and last phase? Huh? I need RF. You mean Party Finder or Raid Finder? There you go. Yeah, nobody uses the Raid Finder in NA. Tired of wiping to light rampant on Shiva Party Finder when people say they've seen Enrage. Yeah, I mean, you could. It's just going to be abused like everything else is in the Party Finder. Clear for a friend. Why are you in the party alone? He's not here yet? 7 more people join. Hey, wasn't your friend going to join? Oh, yeah, he couldn't make it. We'll just clear it anyway. I already put the party together. Why is there a bonus? Oh, this is an alt. It's just another thing that's going to get abused in the Party Finder, especially against learning parties. I don't think we need any more divisions of learning parties, because learning parties are already kind of rough to make, already kind of rough to get. As much as you would like to ensure that you practice only those late phases that you might be actually working on, outside of just saying, hey, this is what the party is, and then the people having the balls enough to join whether or not they have the experience. I mean, I just don't think dividing them even further is going to do any better for people in the long run. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, recently started I've recently started putting efforts towards getting the Eureka weapons and had a couple questions. Excellent. What's a good way to farm light in Pagos? I'm getting Pagos crystals and ice way faster than frosted proteans. So if you actually watch my Pagos video, I cover a few of these methods in a little more detail. Notorious monsters are actually okay for light. They're not great, but they're okay. There's a solo method, of course, involved with killing monsters near one of the 2 fates. Specifically, the Southern Elemental Conflict is the big one that you're going to be looking for. And that trick is detailed much better in other videos than I have time to spend on it now. And then there's one other thing I was thinking of other than NMs and those. There are dragon parties, but I don't think very many of those ever appear. I think a lot of people just do the light from Notorious Monsters for the most part. Because you can start collecting the Pagos light at a fairly early level, but if you wait until the very end, then it takes a while. That's when it takes a while to actually get the light done. So I'd highly recommend looking up my light farming method in Pagos video, which explains everything you need to know in much better detail than I can cover here. But there is a really, really good method. What's your opinion on early pulling NMs? The people who have been doing it argue that if people aren't there to prep, we shouldn't have to wait for them. See, I do agree with that sentiment. I think it's something that we see with the hunt a lot, where people spawn S ranks and then when the pull time is realistically up to them. The people who put in the effort are the people who have complete control. It's hard to argue that logic, right? Is I guess more so where I'm saying. But at the same time, you can help others because you won't always be there either. And if you ever think, if it sucks to be on the other side of the foot, like some people are understanding, they go, yeah, I wasn't there. It's whatever. It's okay if I don't make it. But think about if you could make it. Think about if you did just hold off on pulling that one that you were on with that same logic, and you're like, I know I could pull it whenever I want because I spawned it, but I could also be nice to everyone, and then if they spawn something that I'm nowhere near, then they'll probably be nice too. But I think some people know that there's other people who will prep and be nice, and they don't have to be, because those other people will probably still wait because they're not that person, so they know they can just reap all the rewards. So yeah, it's kind of, you're kind of an asshole if you're doing it like that. But yeah, like you said, it's just, you can't argue against the logic. You just kind of look like an asshole when you're doing it in content that is that large scale, because not everybody wants to be working on the exact same thing. It's sometimes inefficient to do that. When you're already wiping out the map of everything that's there, why should somebody else be there if they can't even get a spell off or more than one spell off on a single target? They could realistically be doing something else to either progress themselves so that they can get out of that zone quicker, or to progress another notorious monster that could be somewhere else on the map. It's really tough because sometimes there's 2 or 3 groups trying to prep different NMs all on the same map. And if all of them do that, then they're all just fucking each other over. So I think you have every right to do it if you're the one spawning it, but you still just kind of look like a dick. So I wish people wouldn't do it and just be like, I'll chill, wait a few minutes. I'm in no rush. It's not like it's going to take that long anyway. And then when more people are here, then we'll pull it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. This one's from today. Yo, Haps, how's it going? It's going good. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. I hope you and Mel are well. We are. Thank you. Question, how do you determine what is a good topic for a YouTube video? Oh, I thought you were going to like build up. You asked another question immediately. So there's 3 criteria for me that determine whether or not I'll make a good YouTube video. I'm interested in the topic. other people have expressed interest in the topic, and it's within my skill set to provide enough analysis and or opinion on said topic. So if it meets those 3 criteria, I usually try to make it happen. Now, there are times where I'll give up a criteria because it just seems like a good idea, and that's worked out for me in the past as well. You take a few gambles if you're not really feeling an inspiration, see if something new sticks or if people enjoy it or like it even just a little bit, and, you know, throw it out there because you never know. Maybe sometimes you'll hit gold or you'll hit something that just everybody loves. But that's usually what goes into the determining if I'm going to make a YouTube video on a topic. Another question, whenever I finish a stream on Twitch, I cannot find that stream to watch later for review. So I can't remember the status. I think if you're not an affiliate, I don't think it saves streams automatically. I would highly advise maybe recording the stream at the same time as you stream it. It's very resource intensive, but if you start recording it onto like an external or something, it shouldn't be as bad. But I think if you're a brand new I think if you're brand new and you're not an affiliate, I don't think it automatically saves streams. But it's been a while, so I might be wrong about that. I would check your settings, see if there's one that's like save VODs for however long. I know it won't save for as long if you're not a partner, but I don't know about not being an affiliate. So unfortunately, that's as good of an answer as I can give because it's been a long time since I've had to think about that. And for me, obviously, I don't have to normally. So apologies. Oh boy, this is definitely the longest one this week. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there, Mr. Happy. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Neither a long nor short time listener, first time asker. I have a first time bonus of temporary targeted memory loss so you can blind prog again. I'll save that energy for the next Ultimate. Thank you very much. Got a question for you about Ultimate, and it is about what you think the next one will be or its design. You expressed some frustration and disappointment with different parts of Ultimates, but the most as of recently, I'm wondering what you feel the sort of criticisms have been heard, if they've been heard by the developers. Stuff like late fight difficulty drop-off, extended periods of boring downtime, desire for more trio Ultimate formation mechanics like Annihilation, missing mechanics, bosses, etc. from the original raid, and Woken Enigma, Codex-style puzzle mechanics going forward. Are you still optimistic about the next fight? If you can you elaborate as to why? So here's the thing. A lot of fights, when we look back on them in hindsight, we find flaws in them that we don't generally see while we're progressing. We get different frustrations while progressing that aren't really in line with how it was designed, if you know what I mean. Those really taking a step back, clearing it a few more times, seeing it from a reprog perspective versus a learning perspective. And so we can usually have things that we think would enhance the experience overall for other people down the line. People who are progging it with guides or people who are reprogging it after maybe not finishing it once or twice. So with that in mind, I think they probably do hear the feedback. There's a very small number of people they need to look for and hear feedback from them in regards to this kind of content. And we know they do things like watch the live streams and pay attention to social media when it comes to this, because OCP makes mention of things like that from time to time. So I think they definitely hear us, but whether or not that's in line with their design for the fight overall isn't always gonna line up, because there's no way to 100% please, especially people like me, when it comes to an MMO. I mass consume content. I take on all the toughest challenges, and then I avoid some of the more casual things that they actually love working on and what are probably more vital to the success of the game than the things that I'm actively criticizing. So as much as I'd love to believe that them hearing it means that things like that will never happen again or that we should never expect them, as much as I do think they are hearing those things, I also don't suspect that it's going to have that much of an impact overall. I still think Ultimate fights are going to be fun. They're always a hell of an experience to go through the first time. Learning them blind is always a genuine pleasure, even if in hindsight we look back and go, you know what, that wasn't that bad, or, I didn't really like that part of Prog, because we're kind of just blinded by the sheer challenge, the notion of overcoming this potentially overwhelming challenge. And that matters to us more than us looking back on a fight we've already beaten and judging it. You know what I mean? So that's probably the best answer I can give, most coherent answer I can give, and I hope it was good enough. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Oh, no hello? There's always one every week. Quick question. Why let you buy a token with in-game money that lets you pay for a sub instead of real money thanks to their auction house? What do you think the chances that something like this get 14? 0. Big reason is because guild syncs in Final Fantasy XIV are not efficient enough to, to filter out people who make way too much money. Now, obviously in WoW, there are people who make way too much money and basically never have to pay for their subscriptions ever. They just buy token after token after token. I feel like the amount of gil that is generated and the amount of gil that is removed from the economy effectively in Final Fantasy XIV isn't high enough to warrant doing something like this without it being to such an extreme that most people will look at it and go, that's dumb, why would they even bother doing it? Like 100 million gil for a single month or something like that, because it is so easy to make money in Final Fantasy XIV that I don't even know, I really don't know what else to say. It's just so easy that it would need to be some, yeah, okay, maybe 100 million is a bit much, but it's going to be like 50 million or something for a single month. And I don't think that's that helpful in terms of the game. I also am not a huge fan of WoW doing it. WoW did it because they wanted to curb things like RMT, doing gold selling, and they're like, oh, we'll get a cut of that. We'll bring some of the business directly to Blizzard. And I gotta remember how that went for the real money auction house of Diablo 3. I have a feeling Final Fantasy 14, there'd be a small group of people who really love it and a large group of people who are not a super big fan of it. And I'm in that large group of people that just doesn't think it's a good idea. I just don't like it. I didn't like when Blizzard does it. I don't like the idea of 14 doing it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, hello. You're making up for the last guy. See, you doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? Yeah, you doing all right. I'm doing all right. Short question, maybe even lightning round worthy. Well, we'll see about that. What retainer jobs do you find the most valuable? Also, do you believe there's absolutely no chance of crafters or limited jobs to be added to retainers? Oh yeah, they're right. There are no crafters. It's only gatherers, isn't it? I wouldn't say it's impossible for crafters to hit retainers, but yeah, limited job, probably not. Let's see. What retainer jobs do you find most valuable? Well, it depends on how many retainers you have. If you're paying monthly for extra retainers, this becomes a less important thing. I would like to say having one gatherer and one combat job for the 2 year guaranteed is the most important. Now, whether it's fishing or mining, it depends, because sometimes you just want them for something like, how do I say, like the minions that are occasionally obtainable, and sometimes that's specific to fishing or mining or whatever. But then you have to think about how much crafting you actually do and what materials would be the most useful, or what materials sell for the most if you don't plan on doing that. So without looking at individual markets, and I'm very unaware of how the markets look for all those materials, I don't have a great recommendation on that. But it seems the smartest just to go with either one minor botanist or fisher, one of the three, and then one combat job just so you can make sure you hit all those marks. Some might argue that going for both mining and fishing or botany and fishing, etc., might actually be the better choice because you can hit more potential minion-related missions with them, and that's reasonable as well. But I'm a bit more of a an even keel kind of guy, so I want to keep things well balanced. So one combat, one gather. And that's it. And yeah, I don't think Blue Mage or any limited job will ever hit it. But crafters, I won't say no, but at this point, if they were going to do it, they probably would have already. So I'll say it's unlikely. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, good sir. I hope you're doing fantastic and feel rested. I do actually this week. I'm feeling much better. Thank you. I hope you're having a good weekend and week as well. Long-time listener, first-time asker. For a first-time bonus, I grant you an extra question. Y'all cheating when you do that, you know that? Y'all cheating. Question 1. Does it bother you that gear in 14 holds no value outside of its patch cycle? I found it worth my time gearing in 11 and like the fact that you can even use low-level gear at higher levels. For example, like using AF Thief Boots for longer flee duration or swapping back to Bis. What do you think 14 could do to have people care about gear? I don't think there's any reason to change it. I could actually do a whole video about this, but horizontal gear progression, the best way to look at it is it's vertical gear progression tipped on its side, because you still start here and work your way here. The difference being that you might actually use things all along the way for different reasons. Now, that being said, I played Final Fantasy XI for many years. I found nothing but frustration in Final Fantasy XI, working dozens and dozens of hours for a new piece that increased something's damage by 40 overall, or maybe gave me slightly more enfeebling magic skill. They were such minuscule differences that the amount of time and work that went into it never felt satisfying to me. I went 7 years without ever seeing my Black Mage hat in Zarkabard Dynamis. 7 years. It was not a good enough piece to wait that long for it, okay? And I felt that way about pretty much everything in Final Fantasy XI's years. Final Fantasy XIV's gear outside of that holds value in several ways, but just not in a way that's, oh, this piece is sentimental to me. And for some people, they still are. Glam can be a really big reason, which is even still a reason now in 11, since you can use the, what's it called, the Stallock system. It could be desynthesis at some point for materials that you can then sell. Sometimes you break those down into very valuable things, especially when you're looking at some of the crafted primal weapons. And then sometimes gear that you're just wearing becomes valuable for extracting multitudes of materia, because now they don't have to be destroyed via spirit bonding. I'm someone who rather enjoys content, an entire game that's not focused on get all this gear so you can do this, as opposed to this is your reward for doing this and now you can do those things better. I find that to be far less frustrating and far more satisfying of a gameplay cycle, instead of go sit here 3 hours to get boots that have dex and agility +3, but there's only a 5% drop rate, so you might be doing it for 2 weeks. Oh, by the way, you'll probably barely notice the difference when you actually get it. I'm going to say something. Final Fantasy XI's gear now is more worth pursuing than it was back then in regards to actually looking for things like side grades. It's just that playing the game now is maybe too many side grades, maybe too many sets, but use third-party programs to handle it anyway, so I guess no one cares. Anyway, question number 2. I've played 14 since A Realm Reborn. Seems like we were moving away from class customization, and with this being a Final Fantasy title, doesn't feel out of place. You have no customization over your class out of armor. Final Fantasy is not known for customization of classes. It's known for, here's your job, these are the spells you can learn, go. It's not known for class customization. It's not known for in-depth skill trees and things like that. It never has been. I'm sure there's, maybe you could look at like license boards in 12 or the sphere grid of 10, which isn't even job based. It's just, here's a bunch of stats. Good luck. No, because it's not something Final Fantasy is known for. Now, I will say, obviously, as a Final Fantasy 11 player, you're thinking of sub-jobs. But here's the thing. In MMOs, there's 2 ways to play the game. There's correctly and incorrectly. And the more choices you give the player, the more opportunity you're just giving for them to be wrong. Now, if you're playing an online game that isn't forced to be multiplayer, something like Path of Exile, for example. Let's say you never play with anyone else in Path of Exile. Yeah, a bunch of other people play it, and it is online, but you don't actually play with them. Then the freedom to actually just maybe not look up a build and just try to figure things out on your own, it's there. It's not going to affect anyone else, and it's not going to be judged unless, of course, you go showboating to all your friends. Oh my god, look at this. And they're like, bro, your build sucks dick. What the hell are you doing? That's one thing, but in Final Fantasy, or in MMOs in general, when you add things like that, you're just creating places where people can make their own decisions and be wrong, and thus be criticized and scoffed at and be told, hey, you're terrible, you're never joining us for this raid group, and please stop doing whatever it is you're doing. So, no, and yeah, but still, I guess the base point is, Final Fantasy isn't known for class customization. It's known for maybe characters having multitudes of things they can pull from, or being able to learn different espers or summons or junctions with different stats like Final Fantasy VIII, but it's not known for class or job customization in particular. And no, I don't think they should add more customization. You're only giving people more ways to be wrong or bad at the game. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, yo, 1 Final Fantasy 16 and 1 14 question. You got it. Hello, by the way. Final Fantasy 16. I heard 15 was the last game under the Crystal Saga. So what the next theme do you think for 16 or subsequent Final Fantasy should be focused on? No. There's no end of the Crystal Saga. Fabula Nova Chrysalis was a mythos that was used across several different games, including Final Fantasy 13, the original Versus 13, as well as Type 0, Agito, and a bunch of others. It was the last game, technically, in the Fabula Nova Chrysalis mythos, which I think they abandoned mostly going into Final Fantasy 15. It was not the end of them using crystals in Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy 16 is very much about crystals, as should be apparent from the trailer, and as you've noted yourself here. And Final Fantasy 14, since Eureka had 4 maps, how many maps are you expecting for Botcha? 3. 5.35, 5.45, 5.55. I do expect, of course, for us to have 2 Baldesion Arsenal equivalents in its place, 1 in 0.4 and 1 in 0.5. And, of course, we have the emergency missions that are going to be coming in the 0.35 version, so we might see some different ways of using those 3 maps that are better than the way we saw Animos and Pagos especially used in particular. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi. Hey. I'm pretty new to the game and have noticed some armors that look like 11, like Scorpion's Harness and the Kirin's Osode. What's up with this? Just some devs thinking they're cool and reusing them, or more to it? Also, what are the chances of an armor that looks more like the Hollborgsyn 11? So the armor that you're speaking about in particular comes from a piece of content called Eureka, which was basically Final Fantasy XIV's version of Final Fantasy XI. There's a lot of homages to it in there. There's things like instead of the Lord of Onzozo, it's the Lord of Animos. Instead of the Valkyr Emperor, it's the Animos Emperor. You have Simurgh in there, you have Circuit, you have all sorts of familiar Final Fantasy XI notorious monsters, and of course, familiar Final Fantasy XI items. Some of them even sort of mimicking the effects they had in the past. The speed belt, I guess, is probably the best example since it has haste on it, but then the optical hat has haste on it too, so it's kind of not a great example at the same time. But you see a lot of things in there that are dedications to Final Fantasy XI, homages to them, and these pieces of armor in there are, of course, following suit. Now, it's worth remembering that Yoshida is the leader of the Business Division number 3, Creative Business Unit 3? I don't know. They've changed. It's CBD 3, I guess. Creative Business Division 3, which also has Dragon Quest X and Final Fantasy XI under it. So, while he's not a producer or director on 11, he recognizes the game. He actually encourages the developers quite some bit, and it feels like he's given them more resources in recent years because they've been on a resurgence, and it's been pretty cool to see, even if I'm not someone who's like in love with Final Fantasy XI much in my older life. So, yeah, those are the answers. All right, and I think that covers everything that doesn't go in a lightning round. I think I saw a couple of questions that I wanted to lightning round real quick. Somebody with a thank you for the Eureka series and asked if I was going to make the BA video. If I do make a BA video, it's actually only going to be like 3 or 4 minutes long to showcase some of the resources that are available. Baldesion Arsenal Discords are amazing for teaching Baldesion Arsenal. They have a plethora of resources that are available there. And quite frankly, I looked at them and I went, I can add nothing of value to this. I can only, if anything, confuse people more with what's here. People should just use this. And if anything, that's what I'll do with the BA video, as opposed to I might cover sort of the mentality of the initial prog, how it was received, how we'd like to see it improved in the future. That might be an okay idea, but actually guiding it, I wrote out the guide, I recorded it, it was like 40 minutes long, and I really wasn't happy with it. So pointing to the Baldesion Arsenal resources that exist for me, I think is better for the community than me making a BA guide. That's my own honest answer. Let's see here. What else do we have? I never bothered to use my Chocobo companion. What's it called? I want to train them in the best possible way. Is there a way to power level? Just kill mobs. Just go out in the world, kill mobs. That's all it is. You're level 80, go kill level 80 mobs. You're level 60 at the time, go kill level 60 mobs. Just kill mobs, just kill bad guys over and over again. That's it. That's all there really is to it. When it hits rank 10, feed him a Thavnarian Onion, get him to 11, Thavnarian Onion, do that all the way till rank 20, and you'll be good to go. Let's see, what else is there? What are your keybinds? That is a loaded question. You really got to figure out keybinds for yourself. Sometimes people use other people's keybinds and then they like build outward from there. I always find that more confusing because you're taking somebody else's base, something that they've worked on and they've already done this whole process for, that works for them. It's like, have you ever tried to research like different diets or different exercise programs, and you see some people who are like, oh, this is garbage, this doesn't work, and they have some people like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done. It's because everyone's different in a sense that one thing doesn't always work for everyone. So figuring out what it is that works for you from the start by just trying things out, sitting there, sciencing it out, it's probably going to be better for you than just doing something like copying my keybinds, for example, especially because mine are very, very personalized for me. I've gone through a lot of trial and error to get them where they are now, and I still tweak them from time to time, so they're even still a little bit dynamic in a sense. I like that you use a noisy keyboard. What is it? A lot of Cactbot comments from last week. I stand by everything I said last week on that topic. I was surprised there wasn't any more questions on it. Let's see. I know there was at least one more thing that I saw that I said I don't think I should answer here, but I don't see it. No, there's the streaming question. I could have swore there were more things here that I wanted to cover. Oh, was this one of them? A few friends trying to convert from WoW. Absence of procs and set bonus. I would be okay. They've tried it in the past, but they tried it so little it barely matters. The idea behind Final Fantasy XIV's gear is that it leaves as little randomness to your character as is possibly available. So when you obtain a piece, it's reasonable to understand how that's going to affect your rotation, which is not at all. How it's going to affect your gameplay and how it's going to affect your output should be very linear decisions that you make, as opposed to trying to really science everything around it. So there's no way they're adding anything like that to any of the main content for Final Fantasy XIV. You might see it in side content, things where like Logos actions exist, like Eureka, or those action equivalents in Bajja. Palace of the Dead, which has all the different random things that you can get, all the different commanders and whatnot. But in the main concept, what you need to focus on is being able to play your job well, because jobs in Final Fantasy XIV, as much as a Final Fantasy XIV vet might like to flaunt, oh, this job's so easy, Compared to most games, Final Fantasy XIV's jobs and their rotations are far more complex and difficult, which is why they are the way that they are. And adding any sort of element that needs to be completely relearned because of a new piece you picked up is not something they want to deal with. They want to make sure their gear and their jobs are as balanced as possible without factoring in things like random procs, frequency of that, and balancing around that. I think it would be cooler if they did it, but it's why I think they should really look into going just absolutely bonkers in content like Bajja, Palace of the Dead, Blue Mage. Let us have those crazy things where we have way more control and way more randomness and excitement and stuff like that are on the side and are not part of the core loop of Final Fantasy XIV. Because I think that is a way to make a lot of alternate content without using a lot of resources, but still offering something really, really cool. I'm almost certain there was another question in here, but I don't see it. I don't see it. Oh, explain a level squish. Somebody actually explained that adequately in the reply, so I don't need to cover that. Oh, how did I miss this one? This one even had a hashtag, and I didn't even see it. Do you think 14 will come to the new Xbox? I mean, I'm going to say it's as likely as it's ever been. Every year, Phil goes, yeah, we'll make it happen. Yeah, sure. And then it never freaking happens. Definitely PS5, because Yoshida's already mentioned that when they make it upgradable, they'll probably do another upgrade campaign from PS4 to PS5. For right at launch, probably not something we'll see till sometime in 2021 at the earliest. But new Xbox, I'll never say no, but at this point, I just don't care anymore. Because they just keep every year, we're talking for 7 years now, we're talking, and it just never happens. So I just can't be asked to care. I just can't. I can't do it. But on that note, I think that's the last question we're going to take from the lightning round. So thanks everyone for watching this episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question, be sure to ask it in the comment section of the video below. Use that hashtag Mr. Happy Monday to make sure that I see it. Otherwise, I might scroll past it and I might get stuck in a lightning round. As you can tell, I actually read them all, but it's easier for me if there's a hashtag in there. Thank you again to everyone for tuning in. Thank you again to our patrons of darkness, Khuja Cross on Jenova and Kurenai Oni, and all of you, much appreciated for supporting the channel and coming to our weekly Q&A. I will see all of you next week, so be sure to be there. And until then, take care.